Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Damage with me, John Iadarola, and Francesca Fiorentini. Francesca, how's it going?
Woo, woo, woo. It's going. Long weekend.
It was a long weekend.
Yeah.
Yes.
God, I was just like, oh, when will this free time be over?
When can I get back on the grind?
Oh, another hot dog. Ooh.
Okay, that actually sounds pretty good. So not only did we have a 3-day weekend, but I had taken the previous Monday off, which you know because you filled in with Ravana.
That's right.
Having 2 3-day weekends in a row just reassures me how right I am when I say we should just have 3-day weekends. What is going on? Let's just do that. 4-day work week, 3-day weekends, glass half full, half empty, whatever. That's what we should have.
It's not pie in the sky either, because like the data shows that people are more productive in those 4 days.
Yeah, it almost seems like, I mean, look, obviously it's not gonna work in every industry. And I'm not even sure that the efficiency gains are gonna be generalizable over every industry or whatever. But the fact that it's better for people, it seems to be better for business. If we don't get it, it seems like, isn't it kind of just like that cruelty is like seen by the powers that be an important part of this process, and we don't want people to be freed up to have mental energy to, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the fifth day of work.
Academia.
The fifth day of work is truly just like team building exercise BS and like fun shirt Fridays and like random things that make.
I have a fun shirt. It's got a dragon on it.
Yeah, I know, but like people start drinking at like 3 in the office on Fridays, and it's just all this stuff to like paper over the fact that you're being exploited and overworked when we could all just be at home. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Not everyone's gonna get it. Like we would probably still have to do 5 shows, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make if everyone else gets an extra day off. And then they'll be more free to watch the show. So Fox News, get on this. People, no, their audience has been retired for 25 years anyway.
Yeah, no, they're like, we're good, we're chill.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's something that we should work towards. My Labor Days plan, 12 Labor Days to start, 1 a month that we get off a Monday, and then every year we add 1 more until eventually 3-day weekends.
What about the idea that like robots were gonna enable us to not have to work in general? Instead, they're taking our most creative jobs, like painting and writing. Me.
Yeah. I was supposed to write bad sci-fi and fantasy, and now it's writing it for me.
Absolutely.
Anyway, with that said, we do have a lot that we're gonna be talking about through the course of today. So thank you for being here, everyone. It's a big old week. We got our Pride special coming up in just a couple of days, which I'm gonna be involved in. Very excited for that. Some awesome people that you'll recognize from appearances on the network, including Representative Zoe Zephyr will be appearing once again. So lots of fun to come this week. We're gonna be starting off the show with fun, partially because it's Francesca, partially because although I did have some days off recently, I was basically just lifting stuff and moving it around and constructing stuff. So I'm more exhausted than I've been in my living memory. So I need a little bit of fun. But we are, of course, going to be talking about the debt ceiling deal that appears to have been agreed upon. A little bit of good news coming out of Texas. How weird is that? Ted Cruz being reasonable, dear God. And one of the latest scams to afflict Trump supporters. Oh, also, is Target trying to turn your dog gay? We're gonna be talking about that in a little bit. So definitely stay tuned for the aftermath. And if you're on the linear platforms, or if you're listening to the podcast, know that always, every day, we release extra content that unfortunately isn't on those formats that you can get at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you should definitely subscribe and become a member there, and you can watch all our content. Anyway, with all that said, Francesca, are you ready to start this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, normally we start off the week by taking a look at the weekend and revealing a Monday menace. Well, we don't have that because Memorial Day ate Monday, which gives us this.
Cute.
Yes, Ashley did a great job on that. So it was Memorial Day, of course. It's a time to honor the sacrifice, I suppose. There's like the idea of what Memorial Day should be, and then there's what it actually is. If you have family members that served and you wanna, reflect on their sacrifice. I think that's perfectly fine. Generally, it's used to bash people into submission under like the guise of patriotism and tell them to never question anything, even if it's explicitly bad for the soldiers. Sometimes it's even worse than that, though. So we're gonna be profiling a few of the worst odes to Memorial Day, starting with Donald Trump, who notably not only did not serve, but worked as hard as he's ever worked in his life to avoid serving, who bleated this: "Happy Memorial Day to all, but especially to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for the country they love." That's great so far, perfectly fine. End the bleat there. Unfortunately, he didn't. He goes on to say, "And to those in line of a very different but equally dangerous fire, stopping the threats of the stopping the threats of the terrorists, misfits, and lunatic thugs who are working feverishly from within to overturn and destroy our once great country, which has never been in greater peril than it is right now. We must stop the communist, Marxist, and fascist pigs at every turn and make America great again." He was able to do like a dozen words of yeah, the soldiers, but really it's about those of us who are trying to stop the commies. Equally dangerous, he said. He didn't say comparable. He didn't say equally important. He said equally dangerous. This is like, if stolen valor is a thing, this is as stolen as valor can be. He said, yeah, that the storming of Germany or something. But me, I debated Joe Biden, and that's equally dangerous. Francesca, what do you think?
I just am reminded of, I think news broke, we called Trump like zombie Nixon, where like, he's just kind of like, yeah, if you were to exhume Nixon's body and like reanimate him, you'd get Donald Trump, throw a little bit of Reagan in there, of course, as well. But we are in a time. Think about like what he's hearkening back to, like the 60s, when there were there have been mass movements now, but like mass movements that fundamentally questioned, the way that things were, right? Whether it was the Vietnam War, whether it was extreme capitalism, now we have an even more extreme capitalism, and like I feel like we sort of let the words communists and Marxists kind of wash over us as if he's always been speaking this way, but he hasn't actually always been speaking this way. So that's something to note, when he's trying to like gain his sort of like fascist accolades, he's like, increasing his vocab. But again, we remember Donald Trump being the person who, visited a World War I memorial and was like, "What's this again? Who do I? Whose first wife was buried here? Is this a golf course?" Like, he has no idea. He doesn't understand sacrifice. He doesn't care. He thinks they're losers. He said basically they are losers. And Memorial Day, let's remember, is different than Veterans Day, right? It's to honor the people who died, gave the greatest sacrifice, in large part for wars for treasure, right? For oil, to stop communism in the case of Vietnam. So I mean, it's very ironic that like here you have, however many hundreds of thousands of Americans died in the Vietnam War to stop communism, as if that were any threat to Americans whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then you have him in the same breath saying, "And now we're still stopping commies, man."
Sure.
Like 60 years later.
Yeah. And look, there are certainly people back then, the same as now, that love the idea of being able to kill some people or whatever. And I don't feel like I need to honor those people. But even though I acknowledge that effectively every war for many, many decades has not been waged for anything approaching the way that it's been presented to people, you can still honor the fact that many of these people thought that's what they were doing. Bravery as a result of, bravery and self-sacrifice as the result of deception is still bravery and self-sacrifice.
Yes.
It's kind of sad, it's tragic, in a whole nother way because of the way they were lied to, but it's still brave and it's still sacrifice. So that's fine.
No, it's honor the war. It's honor the warrior and not the war, right? Gotta come back to remember that.
Yes, and look, you were mentioning how Trump has talked over time. Well, I just thought let's flash back, because that was obviously a pretty bad ode to Memorial Day. But back in 2018, this is 5 years ago, he tweeted at that time, Happy Memorial Day, which just seems like a weird way to say it. There's got to be a better thing than Happy Memorial Day. How about I recognize Memorial Day or something, or somber Memorial Day, not happy. Like that doesn't seem right. But anyway, he says, those who died for our great country would be very happy and proud at how well our country is doing today. Best economy in decades, lowest unemployment numbers for blacks and Hispanics ever. I don't even like having to read that in his voice. And women in 18 years, rebuilding our military and so much more. Nice. Like 4 of those words were about the soldiers that had died. And then he immediately is like, but let me talk about me and all the great work that I'm doing. Obviously he's lying about that work. But even if it was true, that's not about the soldiers, that's about you, buddy. Stop trying to make everything about you. And it's so pointless. I mean, not that it matters. His supporters are immune to reason and self-reflection. But just doing one of the like stereotypical, like, oh, our soldiers things, that is also done to benefit you. But you don't talk directly about yourself. You just look like the person who loves the soldiers. But anyway, as much as I don't like his odes to Memorial Day, we do have others to get to. So why don't we jump directly into this video?
And this guy is just another career politician, and the voters are very smart. They see through it. Ron Desantis has run for 4 different offices in the last 7 years. That's not someone who's looking to help the country. That's someone who's looking to boost his resume and get the next job.
Okay, so that's a Trump supporter on the news, or what passes for news these days, attacking Ron DeSantis, saying dude keeps running for a whole lot of different offices. So he was a congressman, he ran for governor, he tried to get in the Senate. When that didn't work, he went back to governor, and now they changed the law so he could like be governor, but clearly he was already thinking about becoming president, which should bother Republicans in Florida, but seemingly doesn't. So, okay, it's a good attack against him. The dude is just ambitious. He doesn't care about any of these positions. He just wants the next one. That seems fair. Well, obviously they need to defend themselves against that, and that's where it starts to get weird. So DeSantis War Room on Twitter tweets out, today the Trump campaign said Ron DeSantis is not someone who's in it for the country. Here's our response, and they show photos of when he was like a military lawyer or whatever. He was, of course, deployed to Iraq back in 2007. If you were a big Trump supporter, you could point out that in the same exact way that he was willing to be a congressman and willing to be a governor as a stepping stone to the Senate and the presidency, it's entirely conceivable that he went into the military as a lawyer because he thought it would help his political ambitions someday. That's just speculation, but you could make that case. But anyway, they decided to defend him some more. They put this up, okay, after someone who loves Trump posted that there are other bad soldiers, so why are you pointing out that you were a soldier? That's no defense. So they say Team Trump being in the military doesn't mean Happy Memorial Day. Okay, it's a good defense. It's a good defense. But then you see this, Liz Harrington decides to post as a reply a photo of Pete Buttigieg as a soldier. So the most charitable interpretation of this that I think, if I'm being overly fair, is look, DeSantis is bad and he was a soldier. So why are people implying that being a soldier is a good thing? Which would definitely be an about face for Trump supporters, for the right, that all of a sudden now being a soldier literally doesn't mean anything and who cares? But you could interpret it as there are plenty of other soldiers they could have pointed out that are Democrats, and they didn't do that. They did it with Buttigieg. We know how dirty Trump's team is. What are they implying here? I don't know, Francesca, what do you think? It's weird. I don't understand the attack, but this seems to be what they're doing.
Right. Harrington, obviously, I don't think I'm familiar with this. She's on the new, she's reconstituted Trump team.
Yeah. So it's been like a very prominent like person who tweets or whatever.
Oh, fun.
Like, blonde person who tweets.
Oh, yes. I aspire to be one of those.
Big thing.
No, that's exactly what they're saying. I mean, they're saying, yeah, look, here is a gay man who is a Democrat who also served. So it doesn't mean anything. And in fact, I'm using the fact that he's gay and a Democrat to denigrate the fact that he is a veteran. It's just
that's what it seems to be.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Look at him, and like the photo of him, he's looking hard AF. Like he's got a gun. He looks like he just came back from like a deployment. Like I do not fawn over any people in these images holding a gun. I am actually terrified of that. But if anyone, he's like in a bunk, like he sleeps there in that bunk. Versus like Ron DeSantis, who's like, I am a military lawyer, just making sure the torture's going okay. Oops, I mean enhanced interrogations.
Yes, the Guantanamo stuff, definitely. Yeah, and look, if you don't like either of those people, you could plot. Like I am suspicious of politicians who served in the military generally in the modern era because they all grew up in a time in which it was the dignified thing to do, and thus there's the perception that it could be a stepping stone, particularly if you deploy, but you're kind of in a safe-ish thing. I mean, it's still dangerous, but I don't know, like you could say it kind of seems like these are really ambitious guys. We don't think that they'd be willing to serve to benefit their careers. Anyway, I don't work for either of these campaigns. I'm not gonna write their ads for them, but you could say that. That's not what they're doing. They're basically just showing photos of soldiers and being like, I guess serving in the military is gay now, guys. I guess that's what it is. That's what I'm being told by many Trump fans. Not because that's a position they've reached or it represents anything, but just because, I guess we're running against a soldier right now or a former soldier. Okay, I guess soldiers are gay. Like that is how contingent reality is for these people.
Yes.
I hate it. Anyway, let's move on to the most ridiculous one. Marjorie Greene, of all people, decided to, I guess, thank the troops to some extent. She tweeted, on this solemn day, good start, we honor the fallen soldiers who defended our nation's values. Their sacrifice serves as a powerful reminder that freedom is never free. Let's stand united in gratitude and remembrance. Hashtag Memorial Day, hashtag never forget. All of that seems perfectly fine. The tagline, home of the free because of the brave. Obviously, you get a little bit into propaganda right there, and her concept of free is debatable at best. But the thing is, and I want to be very clear. I don't care and it doesn't matter. But the flag that she has right there is not a regular American flag. It is a flag, if we could put it up once again, with 18 stars in it. Now, if this was almost any other politician, I would say, it's a small flag. They didn't think they could fit it, so they just did the 18 stars. But it's Marjorie Greene, so are we sure that it doesn't represent something else? I did research both on my own and through AI. I'm kidding. No official US flag has 18 stars. So it could represent when Louisiana was admitted to the Union. That became, at that point, the 18th state. So it would have been accurate as of then. You could say that it's hearkening back to an earlier time before all of those other states were added, I suppose. I don't know. Should I care? Maybe I shouldn't care. What do you think, Francesca? Are we gonna find out that it's a reference to there are 18 states with above 90% white residents or something? Like, what sort of weird, deep 4chan hole is this coming out of?
John, you're too online, and absolutely someone on the right. Some weird bunker Nazi is making the exact same point, but it really is just lazy clip art. Marjorie Greene, yeah, she doesn't care. Her staff reads at a 3rd grade level. She reads at a 1st grade. That's why they're hired. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not anything. It is clip art that someone just Googled and was like, is this free? Yeah, well, if we scrub the Shutterstock thing, well, I mean, it's from China, but no one will figure it out. Like, that's all this is.
Home of the free clip art because of the brave clip art thief.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe you're right. You know what? So let's forget about that. Just go back to the substance of it. She wants to honor the fallen soldiers because deep in her heart, she cares about their sacrifice, which is why she has always supported them, with a few exceptions. For instance, she is supportive of congressional Republicans' legislation that would make significant cuts to veterans, including in their health care. She doesn't care about that. Marcus Flowers points out she also voted against the Honoring Our Pact Act, a bill to provide protections to veterans exposed to toxic burn pits. So honor them and fill their lungs with toxic air, I suppose. She also at one point in an interview said that joining the military is akin to throwing your life away. To be fair, in the interview, she was saying a lot of young people think it's throwing your life away, but she didn't say that they're definitely wrong. And I would argue that if you were worried about that, and she apparently has identified that that's a thing that some young people think about, then maybe you would want to arrange things in a way that they wouldn't have to think that. That maybe if we had a much smaller defensive military, where if you sign up, the farthest you're gonna go is like Montana or something. And then you'll serve your 4 years, you won't needlessly die to protect corporate profits, and then you go on with your life and maybe get some money towards college, then maybe a lot of young people wouldn't think that it was a waste of money. Many of them might think that it's a worthwhile sacrifice of time to then get a benefit. But she's not working in that direction. She is fully supportive of an ever increasing military defense budget that will always be used to justify it by sending soldiers abroad. She can pretend that she's against the Ukraine war or whatever. She's also advocating for us to invade northern Mexico.
Yep.
So yes, I can understand why some young people might have issues with the military that she would have us have.
It's just incredible because shoe on the other foot, if this were a Democrat, we would just never hear the end of it. Fox News would make this the headline for a week, right? Representative Ilhan Omar said that, the military is where young people go to die. Who's ever died after joining them? You know what I mean? Like, Ilhan Omar says that these wars were fought needlessly. Wow, but Trump can say they're losers because they died. Marjorie Greene can say it's throwing your life away, and then be like, yeah, why are we sending money to Ukraine, even though I'm gonna keep on voting for a bigger military budget every single year? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is like, we on the left and progressives, it's very difficult not to feel insane right now, because we have, and I know we're gonna talk about the budget, the deficit ceiling, and the fact that the military is completely safe from that, and the fact that the Biden and the Biden administration are absolutely in agreement with Republicans when it comes to increasing and not actually paring down that military budget, no matter what MTJ says, right?
MTG. We're gonna talk about that on the other side of the break, yeah.
Whatever, Anyway, so the point is it's sort of, it's just sickening. It's sickening because it's all bluster, and their form of isolationism is just like fear-mongering jingoism against a different enemy. That's like, their flavor of the month.
Yeah. It's not isolation. You can't conduct like ongoing bombing campaigns and the soldier's boot wasn't on the ground, I'm an isolationist.
Right.
That's not how that's supposed to work. And then also advocate for the invasion of northern Mexico. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna take our break. When we come back, we will be talking about military funding when we talk about this debt deal. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, how's it going? By the way, I saw a comment on YouTube and I looked it up, and it is true. I don't know how common this is, but I'm from Connecticut, and I saw they said that it's under a UV risk like assessment. And I did see that, yeah, very high risk of harm in Hartford, Connecticut from UV rays.
Whoa,
that's fun. Anyway, watch yourself if you're outside. Maybe consider a hat, because that seems dangerous. Anyway, with that said, why don't we jump into your comments? I will say, unfortunately, we are temporarily paused. It has nothing to do with me. I don't even know why on the Blue Apron thing. I think it's gonna come back eventually. We'll see if it does. So there's no sponsorship as of right now. I will say, my wife and I did make a meatball fennel orzo dish from Blue Apron over the weekend, and dear God, it was good. And the tofu katsu that I made last week, that was so good. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm not sponsored by them right now. And I'm certainly not personally sponsored. And I pay for my own Blue Apron. I'm just telling you, it is delicious. So anyway, with that said, oh my God, the gifting that is going on. Aimster gifted 5 memberships. Thank you for that. Long Beach Dragon gifted 10. Thank you, Long Beach Dragon. You're not that far away. Lazy Peon gifted 10 as well. Thank you, Lazy Peon. Tyler Hackner gifted a membership too. Thank you to all of you. That is a crazy amount of gifting going on. Okay, let's see. Brian Miller has been a member for 28 months, says, John, thanks for being like a vaccine to all the poison of the BS on Twitter. Hi, Fran. Thank you. Although some right wingers who are probably already not predisposed to listen to me are gonna be even less likely now that they know that I'm a vaccine. Anyway, I've always thought of Francesca as the ivermectin to the BS on the internet.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
I will.
And Brett is
I'll give you the runs. Let me be real. I'll give you take me and you will definitely need a diaper.
If you're being affected by online BS or if you have worms, get you some Francesca.
Are you a horse that listens to the damage report?
Are you a horse who believes misinformation?
Yeah. Are you a lefty horse who feels left out?
Oh my God. Say nay to disinformation. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna make an ad. Lazy Peon says in a super chat, it's Ronnie James Dio Day. Let's raise a glass for the man on the silver mountain. That's a music thing, isn't it? I feel like that's a music thing. I think that's from Bart.
It is. I think it is.
The man Jack Black prays to and Kickapoo. I haven't seen that either. Gone too soon but never forgotten. Oh, okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I think that's a name that Bart has mentioned before in a band that he likes. Anyway, Rebel Phoenix says, John, how many hours have you put into Tears? I don't know, and I don't want to know. Is your husband playing Tears of the Kingdom?
No, don't even mention that. It doesn't exist.
He's not?
I don't know.
What?
Is it on PlayStation?
No, it's on Switch.
No, then he's not.
Well,
that for sure I know. He's playing. Good. He's been playing like Last of Us. He's replaying Last of Us.
Well, Last of Us is very good. I understand that. Okay, let's jump another. Oh, actually, let's see what's going on over on Twitch. Geneve has been here for 12 months. Thank you as a subscriber. Big Leb 65 has been here for 31 months. Thank you. Eventually, you'll be here for 65 months. That'll be perfect synergy, and then the universe can finally end. Let's see. Sonic Boom Dragon has been here for 27 months. Thank you so much. Deb in Michigan's been here for 12, says this place keeps me sane. Thank you so much. And the Mike Stroh has been here for 12 as well, says hi, Fran. Thank you.
Hi.
Here's more news. Okay, everybody, let's get to the big domestic news of the day. A deal has apparently been reached, and so far it seems like everyone hates it. I mean, Biden likes it. Gonna raise the debt ceiling, and he thinks that it's a huge coup for him. Some of his defenders, I'm sure on CNN and MSNBC, are pretty happy about it. I hear Morning Joe's a fan, but I have some problems with a few things included in it. And some people I don't agree with on literally anything in politics, hate it just as much as me. So this is gonna be a fun story. First, here is Joe Biden's announcement about the deal that has apparently been reached, but not finalized yet.
Yeah.
It hasn't gone through. Bear that in mind. Anyway. He says the agreement represents a compromise, which means not everyone gets what they want. I'm talking to you, pores. Anyway, that's the responsibility of governing. And this agreement, the rich get what they want. Let's be clear about that. Not everyone is not equally distributed across the economic spectrum. But anyway, those are my words. I'll go back to the president. This agreement is good news for the American people because it prevents what could have been a catastrophic default and would have led to an economic recession, retirement accounts devastated, and millions of jobs lost. That is one of my favorite sorts of statements in politics because it is not technically untrue, but it is also lacking in all of the context that it deserves. Like, why is it that we got to this point where you needed to make this deal with Kevin McCarthy and a new Republican majority that gives away a whole bunch of things that, oh shucks, you're sorry to have to give away, but it is a compromise. We could have not had to do this at all. You could have raised the debt ceiling before the Republicans took over, and this sort of deal wouldn't have been necessary. He doesn't mention that, of course. I have a feeling many of the boosters of this deal will not be mentioning that, but we are going to acknowledge that. We're also going to acknowledge that not everyone gets what they want, that abstract language. Yeah, it means specific things though. For instance, it means that there's gonna be cuts, I think they said like $186 billion or something, to non-defense discretionary budgeting. It includes domestic law enforcement, forest management, scientific research. Oh, we still do that, and more. It would limit all discretionary spending to 1% growth in 2025. So basically 2 years of budget cuts. They say growth of 1%, but inflation is higher than that, so it's cuts, okay? And they're not doing defense, so you can sort of figure out where that's gonna come from. The military budget is going to increase to $886 billion next year, then again to 895. That's what they say. That doesn't mean that's what the final budget is going to be. When has it ever only gone up $9 billion in a year? So Biden gets to say this is a win because it's 2 years of budget cuts rather than the 10 that the Republicans had been looking for. Okay, so we're gonna get into some of the other specific stuff that doesn't have to do with budget cuts or increases. But what do you think about this so far?
That's what I think about it.
It's a deal. Not everyone gets what they want.
You can't always get what you want. He should have just done that. It would have been better.
But if you're rich sometimes,
yeah, exactly.
You just might find.
Yeah. Yourself on a plane to Epstein Island. I mean, you get what you need. Sorry, I don't, whatever. I don't know how this song. I mean, look, it is going to hurt working people. That's what this deal does, right? And like, notice how, when do we get a say? And I guess we get a say through our Congress people, and we will see whether they will vote this through. We'll see whether Democrats get on board with this. But this means we know where the cuts are coming from, right? We understand that this is all about any programs that working people use, that poor folks use, any extra assistance, that's all going out the window. All that research that in the wake of the most massive global pandemic in however many generations, that's all gone. To say nothing of climate research and climate preparedness. To say nothing of talk about student debt relief, all of the things that were on the docket to help actual people. That's all going away. And at the same time, you've got the Fed over there raising interest rates again on working people. So, we'll never be able to afford that home, or we'll never be able to start that small business. All the stuff that they profess, and all because Joe Biden doesn't want to mint a coin with him with the dark Brandon eyes, lasers. You don't want to mint $1 trillion coin? Are you kidding me? That's the first thing when I'm president, y'all. I'm minting a coin. It's gonna have my cat on it. All right. Chitty's gonna be on that goddamn coin. And then the second thing is, he doesn't want to, the 14th Amendment. He doesn't want to use that. It's like, if this is how little he's going to fight for something so critical to the everyday function of not just this economy, but the global economy, then what about abortion rights? Then what about voting rights? Then what about climate change? Is any of us holding our breath for that?
Yeah, I have the same fears. So obviously we're frustrated. We're about to get into many of the reasons that we're frustrated, but you know what? I want to be fair and balanced by representing the other side's concerns. So why don't we start off with this video?
Because there is nothing real in this bill to enforce. In short, tomorrow's bill is a bunch of fake news and fake talking points that will do nothing to rein in out of control federal spending.
So Lauren Boebert isn't happy about the debt deal, and I'm in a weird position, of course, because I don't like it either. But for exactly opposite reasons from her, it does limit the spending because that's exactly what it does. I don't know what else to tell you. That's what it does. By the way, I don't like that. That's bad, but it's there. If I am camping and I look into a bush and there's a tiger there, I don't like that either, but it's still a tiger, okay? So I don't know what the fake news thing is. It does limit but the budget. It cuts it for the next 2 years. That sucks. I don't know why she's not happier about that. I don't know why she's not happier considering all of this other BS that's in the deal. So for instance, the agreement includes new measures to get energy projects approved more quickly by creating a lead agency to oversee reviews and ensure that they're completed in 1 to 2 years. Budget stuff. Anyway, it specifically says that the Mountain Valley Pipeline, what's his face is favorite project in West Virginia.
Manchin's extension of his manhood.
Oh, I briefly forgot Manchin.
That's so sweet.
That was a good time. Anyway, Joe Manchin's favorite project, that's gonna be approved. Again, budget stuff. In addition, it claws back $30 billion in unspent money from a previous COVID relief bill signed by Mr. Biden. I don't like that. I also don't like that in a time when over 1 million people died, they didn't spend that money when they could have. It puts an end to Mr. Biden's freeze on student loan repayments and restricts his ability to reinstate such a moratorium, even if there's another pandemic or something. It does not, however, take away the student loan forgiveness that they wanted to stop. So I guess that's something.
There we go.
And then of course, one other thing before you jump in. Hey, what do you know? They're getting their work requirements. It now expands work requirements to adults aged 50 to 54 who don't have children living at home. That's gonna require 80 hours of work in a month. That seems extreme.
Yep.
So that you can earn your $281 maximum in SNAP benefits. Work out the hourly on that, by the way, and you'll get an idea of what America thinks of working Americans. But interestingly, I just want to note this one thing. Matt Brunig had a really interesting response to this. He says the bill would exempt veterans, the homeless, and people who are children in foster care from the food stamp work requirements. Okay, that's interesting. He goes on to point out that the switching up who's eligible and the paperwork and all that is explicitly designed to knock people out who are technically eligible, but won't know that they need to refile or will make some sort of clerical error. They do this on purpose. People will be thrown out without food, even though they deserve it. That's just what the bureaucracy does. But then he points out this, which I think is really interesting, about the argument that Republicans make for these work requirements. He says veterans are a venerated group in our society. That's why they're exempt. But if work requirements are good for the people who are subject to them, as conservative policy intellectuals claim, then they should especially be applied to venerated groups like veterans who we want good things for, right? And I think that's a great point. It's talked about as, no, this is like helpful. It gets them out there, it gives them purpose, it gets them more money, it gets them back in there. Well, then why are you leaving the veterans behind? It almost seems like you don't believe the BS that you're spreading.
No, exactly. They know that work requirements are punitive in this case. And that's why they're putting them on there, because they want to kick more people off of SNAP benefits. By the way, in order to qualify for SNAP benefits, you have to be living, I believe, near or below the poverty line. And so if you are then required to go to work, you have to make sure that those 80 hours are not kicking you above the poverty line, which I'm sure is incredibly low, and it could vary from state to state to even qualify for those extra $281 to eat. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is why we need universal programs across the board, because these particular sort of carve outs for this group and that group, and it's all used to pit people against one another, to obviously demonize these same groups, whether they are, like poor people, working people, people who are with disabilities, who I know are also exempt, but it doesn't matter. It is to slam them with paperwork. And lastly, this is a deal that also cuts out major funding for the IRS so that they can audit billionaires, millionaires, really, and people with a lot of money. And this is so funny because we live in a country where you have to do your own paperwork every single year when it comes to your taxes. They could easily do it for you, but no. They deliberately want to strap us with that bureaucratic nightmare in order to then go after working people and middle income people and never go after the rich people. You see how it all works? You see how we talk about, oh yeah, like socialism, there's lines, there's all kinds of paperwork. Oh my God, nothing works. No, man. You've never been poor in America, because things don't work for people who are poor here. They're slammed with bureaucracy, they're waiting in lines, and we don't have socialism in this country.
Yeah. People are talking in the chat, by the way, about work requirements for Congress. Like, if it was work requirements and raising money doesn't count, then they would be doomed. 80 hours a month. Yeah, right. Anyway, finally, so Biden needs to sell this to the Democrats. McCarthy needs to sell it to the Republicans. Some combination of the two probably will be needed to pass this. And it seems like exactly what the rich want. It doesn't do anything to hurt them. It doesn't raise their taxes. It limits spending. So, hey, maybe less taxes on them in the future. And so why wouldn't they want this? So my assumption would be that this will definitely get the support. They'll figure out exactly what assortment of centrist Dems or whatever, and most of the Republicans will vote for it. But along the way, lots of people will complain who don't particularly care. Boebert will actually love this while pretending not to because she's supposed to be angry or whatever. Nancy Mace says Republicans got outsmarted by a president who can't find his pants. Okay. So there's definitely some Republicans are criticizing it, but they're criticizing it because they think that it should be more punishing. It should do deeper cuts. It should hurt more people. Someone in the chat said, by the way, could you explain SNAP benefits to people outside of the US? And we've done a lot of stories about SNAP benefits, so I'm not gonna go super in depth, but basically it's money for food assistance for the poorest Americans. There's like 34 million Americans or whatever that go hungry on a daily basis. And this provides on average less than like $130 a month to be able to buy some of the bare necessities food-wise. That's what is continually being debated, continually being cut. A very small benefit that literally provides milk and cheese for people. That's what's being considered.
No, and not
along the way, they're gonna make some pipelines.
Yeah.
Anyway, final point goes to you.
All to say that SNAP benefits also were expanded thanks to the pandemic. And because of that, people could actually eat 3 square meals a day. But now they have to go back to eating 1 meal a day. That's happening in the richest country on earth, people. 1 meal a day.
Yeah, and to take it back to all of the Memorial Day like odes that they gave, like the sacrifice they made so that someday lots of people like them can go hungry, but the rich will do better. Like, oh God, they're all so
It'll
fake.
trickle down.
They're all so fake. Anyway, okay, everybody, we're gonna take a break, do a little bit of administrative stuff behind the scenes, and we'll be back. Okay, everybody out there in the audience, talk amongst yourselves. So basically, we're a little bit behind. You know what? I think we'll continue on with C and then D. E is not super time sensitive. We can always bring that back for tomorrow. Anyway, with that said, let's see what's going on out there. Matt Gates on Whiteford Bronco sent in a super chat saying, Francesca on a Tuesday. Yes. Also, how can one tell if a dog is acting gay? A cat may fool everyone, but a dog, I don't know. We're gonna debate it though in the aftermath. This nonsense. Kide says, whenever John uses a D&D spell in news context, I'll thank him with a super chat. Here's for the accidental use of seeming and seemingly. Thank you for acknowledging that. I didn't expect that one would work. Anyway, Night Prairie Dragon says, nerd God save us, John. They are now trying to cancel KFC for teaming up with Diablo 4. It really took them 30 years to clutch their pearls. Yeah, I heard about that this morning. We might have Dan on tomorrow. He's a big gamer. So if we have him or Jordan on, I'll probably bring up that story. It's gotta be exhausting being a right winger and desperately looking for things to pretend to be bothered by.
Agreed.
Anyway, we'll talk more about that in the aftermath. Acid Rain, welcome to Tier 1 membership. Glad to have you here. D Rocky gifted a membership. Thank you. Swedane Dragon gifted 10 memberships. Swedane Dragon always be gifting. Thank you. Appreciate it. And says, even if there was a progressive candidate that won, that person wouldn't have support from the majority of Congress. Yeah, I understand that. If it had been Bernie in 2016 or in 2020 or in 2024, he would have an almost entirely hostile Congress. He would have a Supreme Court that is literally placed there to overturn what he does. And so it would be super difficult and super frustrating, and it would be the only chance we have to get literally anything done. He would be able to do some stuff via executive order and executive actions. He would be able to put some pressure on Democrats to potentially pass some legislation. It would not be what it should be, but it would be better than this.
He would invoke the 14th Amendment. That's it.
Well,
it would just be the 14th Amendment.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
And then kick it to the constitutional originalists in the Supreme Court. Oh, really? What are you gonna argue with the document that you hold so sacred that we cannot deviate from?
Plain text they supposedly respect so much. Anyway, also one other behind the scenes thing. Mike, can you check for after the show, the top 10 list? I haven't got any confirmation yet on whether we're gonna be able to do that. Would you be able to, thank you, follow up on that. Okay, we're gonna read a few more of your comments with the time that we have. Let's go to the members' comments. Ian just says, fantastic Tuesday, thank you. Well, we're gonna do it, thank you, that's awesome. And tell Mark, thank you. America Needs a Reboot says, I'm surprised he didn't mention election fraud. He's showing signs of maturity, LOL. I think that's Trump's Memorial Day thing, I assume. Farrah Blue Blazer Dragon says, here's a question that some university ought to research. Have more Americans died in foreign wars or been killed by guns in the safe, peaceful domestic streets and homes? I mean, I think it depends on what time period you're talking about, but I would say yes, regardless. Like, more than 50,000 people die every single year from guns. It doesn't take that many of those years to add up to even the Civil War, which was the most devastating. So I'm gonna say yes. Okay, Smile Dragon, member for 29 months, says positive anything coming out of Orange Man's mouth seems so disrespectful for those of us who are positive, and it hurts those of us with working intelligence. He's lost all of his marbles. Yeah. Dystopian Dragon, tier 3 member for 28 months, says trickle down economics equals golden showers. Yeah, but it's only like the implied threat of a golden shower. It doesn't actually even happen. Ann Campbell says, I feel betrayed as a Democrat to sold out. It might cost my vote. I understand that. It's really frustrating. Again, it's better than it could have been if you forget all of the context. By the way, in the chat, I can see you can call me Jess says the governor of Iowa just signed a bill to loosen child labor laws. Of course, it's like that's the craze that's sweeping the nation. Kids shouldn't be wearing rainbow shirts. They should be working in pork processing plants. That is what the right is telling me on a daily basis.
You cannot make this up, people. Again, I double down on why the writers are going on strike. Reality is giving them a run for their money. You cannot satirize this. It is absolutely, Republicans have no sense of irony, none whatsoever. They don't understand hypocrisy because when you live in a bubble of your own privilege and correctness your entire life, it's like you don't see it. Or they do, and they're being bad faith about it, but oh my God.
I don't think they care at all about the shirts or whatever. I think it's just a distraction, but I do think they like the idea of hustling kids immediately into work. Kids should be working, preferably pork processing plant. They should also be married. They want more child brides. To be fair, they want straight child brides, no gay child brides, but they do want child brides. Child brides and child workers, it's a dystopia and we're racing headlong towards it. But at least the dystopia won't be gay. So we've got that to look forward to. Anyway, let's turn now, despite my tone and whole general vibe, to some good news that's very limited and will be undercut almost immediately. But first, the good news. It's looking like Texas might have gone woke because of all states, Texas, run by Governor Greg Abbott, who did not stop this, has passed a version of the Crown Act. And I did not expect that to happen. There should be no reason why that's surprising. It's one of the most reasonable, common sense sorts of pieces of legislation that you can imagine. It's passed in many states over the past few years. But Texas, of all places, I am actually pretty surprised. It actually did very well in terms of the vote. In the Senate, 29-1. The House, 143-5. So they were able to find a few people who think that you should be legally allowed to discriminate against people based on their hair. And by the way, if you're not familiar with this, although we have talked about it on the show before, the Crown Act stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. It's designed to protect against discrimination, particularly in the workplace, based on hair texture, protective hairstyles, all of that sort of stuff, of which there has been a lot. And in fact, we can bring up a map where you can see some of the progress in passing versions of the Crown Act, and you can see 20 different states have passed it. There's some others where it's potentially pending right now, others where it hasn't even been filed. We'd love to see some progress in there, but you can see a number of states where it is now passed. And so Texas joins California and New York. How often do you hear that sort of thing? But anyway, the fact that most of the Republicans supported, the fact that Greg Abbott didn't block it, with how focused they've all been on not seeming to be woke, I'm actually surprised. What do you think?
I am also surprised, and yet I feel like the other shoe's gonna drop, and pretty soon this act is going to be used to defend white chicks wearing cornrows from discrimination, or just someone being like, why are you wearing cornrows? And then that's it. And then they're gonna have a whole lawsuit. And then Alec is gonna get involved. And then they're gonna, the Supreme Court's gonna be ruling on white dreads. And then that's just, I feel like that's where we are. That's where we are. But yes, no, it is on its face a good thing. A lot of work goes into pieces of legislation like this. Something that we think is so basic, to not discriminate against someone because of their hair. Like, no, that's not like only until recently. This year we passed the Pump Act, the right to go like pump during work hours if you're a breastfeeding parent. Like that's, so we will see. I hope this at least gives some employees and workers and students a leg to stand on if and when they are being discriminated against.
Yeah, and I think the reason I guess I would be worried that this would fall into the rubric of like, oh God, Texas is gone Bud Light is like not the actual like scholarly original definition of like what woke is supposed to encapsulate, but just like the basic idea of, hey, maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing if over the course of your life you were to think about things you haven't thought about and consider the experiences of other people. Like, wouldn't that be great? And we have to fight to get people to accept that that's a good thing. But like, there's probably plenty of white people who either don't realize that this happens, that people experience discrimination in their workplace, in schools, in all sorts of places, or that they might have done it themselves and haven't questioned it. And maybe this sort of thing helps to push people to question, whether they have done things without realizing it that are discriminatory, to understand and respect the life experiences of people who aren't exactly like them. Like, it's so reasonable. It should be the bare minimum of how you live your life. But unfortunately, there's a ton of pushback, and it literally requires legislation to get people to just naturally evolve to the bare minimum degree. So anyway.
I would like to quote the song "If I Only Had a Brain" from The Wizard of Oz. I could think of things I'd never thunk before, and then I'd sit and think some more. So that is what your commentary reminded me of. This is the right wing in America. If they only had a brain, like think of all the things you could think. Amazing.
Yeah, and it should be the most obvious thing. As with all of these things, there is so much that is so reasonable that they would say, no, we don't have to do that. You don't need representation in movies. Why is that not important? But that they obviously understand, because when they feel they've lost the barest minimum amount of it, it breaks their entire reality. It's all this stuff that they definitely understand when it is just about them, but they don't understand that you could apply that to other people too.
Yep.
Like if they experienced discrimination based on their hair, it would be the most important issue that had ever happened. And yet that can't generalize. But anyway, thankfully some Republicans supported it. So this is reasonable Republicans in Texas. We're gonna turn now to another sort of reasonable Republican in Texas very briefly. Let's jump to our D block. Ted Cruz said something, and at least at first glance, I agree with it, and that's weird. It has to do with the incredibly awful anti-LGBTQ law in Uganda. He had this to tweet: "This Uganda law is horrific and wrong. Any law criminalizing homosexuality or imposing the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality is grotesque and an abomination. All civilized nations should join together in condemning this human rights abuse. #LGBTQ."
What?
And I had to check so many times because of course this is Twitter now, and so you can't trust anything you see there. Wait, is this a different person pretending to be Ted Cruz? No, it is. So I'm not ruling out hacking, but as of right now, it seems like he's just being reasonable. And he's right, it is terrible. It states, that bill, that any person that, quote, holds out as a lesbian, gay, transgender, a queer, or any other sexual or gender identity that is contrary to the binary categories of male and female. I don't even see how the sexuality stuff is contrary, even if you believe that there was a binary of gender, but whatever, that's what they're saying. Could face up to 10 years in prison. It calls for sentences of life in prison for anyone engaging in gay sex, and the death penalty would be given to those convicted of aggravated homosexuality, a broad term that could include gay sex with a minor or with someone who is HIV positive. By the way, there's already a version of this that was just passed in Florida. the death penalty for child, molestation or whatever is, I mean, philosophically, it's not even that distinct from this, considering the Republicans that run Florida. So I don't know, is this a criticism of Ron DeSantis from Ted Cruz? But he was criticized, we're gonna get to that. But first, what do you think about him being kind of right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it is, Ted Cruz does this all the time, right? He's done this with, Cuba, where his dad is from, right? Where, gay folks fled persecution under Castro, right? And he talks about that. But then he has no understanding when it actually comes to the United States. I mean, after a year ago, we were talking about how Ted Cruz, in the wake of the Dobbs decision, rescinding abortion rights, was saying, yeah, Obergefell and versus Hodges is next, i.e. gay marriage is next. And he kind of just sort of like, rolled that off. Oh yeah, it's probably next and this is fine. That is discrimination. Like, I understand you think there's a big difference between obviously like, the death penalty and not allowing gay marriage, but it is a short slope backwards to that, or forwards, or wherever they want to go, down.
Down into the depths of hell. Down. Yeah, and by the way, you do not have to dig very far into the people who support the one to find out that they would support the other. And you know what? Why don't we get into some of the criticism that Ted Cruz received for just saying, hey, let's not kill people for being gay, right? No? Oh dear God. Here are some comments. Lauren Witzke, who is another person who tweets and also a Senate candidate. Those are now the same thing. Anyway, says they are protecting their youth. Unlike the lawmakers in Texas, the Uganda government recognizes that if you give an inch, the LGBTQ mafia will take a mile. While you guys struggle to stop drag queens from twerking on the laps of toddlers. When the hell is that happening? Anyway, they stop it before it starts. Texans can't protect their borders. Texans can't protect their kids. Texans can't protect cities from becoming liberal assholes. Worries about your own state before you worry about Uganda. She's a candidate anyway, but that's how I hear her. Anyway, to be clear, she is against the LGBTQ mafia because if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Meanwhile, she supports executing people for being gay. Talk about taking a mile. You think the state should be able to kill people because of who they want to have sex with. But
the
okay,
mafia, LGBTQ mafia. Like I think you saw Queer Eye for like a second and then was like, there's a mafia. Anyway.
It's scary stuff. She is persuasive though. I did see this other tweet of hers, which opened my eyes. Did you know that if you put the word Pride Month right next to each other without a space, and then you only look at some of the letters and for some reason make them rainbow colored, it has the word demon? I don't know why that matters, but she finds it very compelling.
Like, girl, sell something on Etsy, bitch, okay? Get a hobby. You're so boring. You're so boring. Like, what happened? Your wine subscription, club subscription ran out. All right, go to Costco, get yourself a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc and sit your ass down.
Yeah.
How bored are people these days?
Yeah, I love the idea that like they're demons for being gay, living their life, they're gay. You're defending a country executing people for their sexuality, but they're demonic. I'm not like a big reader of the Bible or whatever. I don't chill with Jesus, but I have a feeling that if you had to choose between the two, I don't think that would be a tough one as to which is more in line with demons. Anyway, with that said, that's all the time we have for this hour of the show. There's more to come in the aftermath, everybody, though, so we hope to see you there. Bye for now. Welcome to the Aftermath, everybody. I'm John Iadarola, and Francesca Fiorentini is here, host of not only this show right now, but also the Bitchuation Room constantly, like every week.
Yeah. Coming up right after this.
It will be. So thank you, by the way, for doing the show right in advance of it. What are you gonna be talking about on it?
All kinds of things. Gonna do a little Oath Keepers, do a little what's going on with Uber in Minnesota, a little bit of maybe some debt ceiling, maybe some Succession talk. Jack O'Brien from the Daily Zeitgeist podcast is gonna be on, so that is incredibly exciting. He's wonderful. So if you're a fan of the Zeitgeist, head on over to Franny Fio on YouTube or Twitch, or listen whenever we're done.
Nice. Speaking of Succession, by the way, we did a top 10 list like a month ago of our prediction, what we wanted to happen by the end of the season. And so the show is done. We watched it this weekend. So we're gonna be doing a follow-up in place of our top 10, evaluating what we wanted and what actually happened, giving you our thoughts. So if you'd like to get access to that on the YouTube channel page and channel panel, then you can become a tier 2 or tier 3 member and you'll get access to it, as well as all the other members' content. So that's coming up soon. Can anyone else hear that?
No.
It sounds like a helicopter is landing on the roof. I'm a little bit worried, actually.
Oh, I can hear it now.
I don't know what that is. Anyway, okay, let's assume that the ceiling is not gonna collapse live on TV.
Who are you gonna use as a human shield? Maybe all the toys behind you once they come for you?
I don't know, I don't have anything.
Whoa, I hear it. What's happening?
It's either a helicopter or someone is jackhammering into the studio, or someone with a bump stock is nearby. I don't know.
Oh God, please don't say that. Don't say that.
Anyway, I just want my final moments caught live on internet TV to be entertaining for people in a few years.
Please don't say any of the things you just said. Thank you.
I'm kidding. With that, we're gonna try to just move on. Whenever we're ready, why don't we launch into this?
Woke M&Ms have returned.
The whole place, it was like wokeified.
You can't have a moment of just fun without an agenda.
Oh, the right's gotta be mad, and generally recently they've been mad that brands are trying to like turn you gay by there being a shirt with a rainbow on it or something. But they're not just worried about you being turned gay or your kids. What about your dogs and your cats? Because now they're furious, apparently, that Petsmart has a pride line. Yep, the pet store. Take a look at this. This is the You Are Loved collection. How dare they? So you can see it's like bandanas and stuff for your dog. And that's making them very angry. They're tweeting, looks like Petsmart wants a spot on the boycott boat.
God.
But what if the boat's got a pride line? What are you gonna do then? And then there's this. This is so amazing, this tweet. It says, for your dog who identifies as a cat, I presume. They really do only have one joke. So Petsmart supports groomers. Good to know. And when I read that, so Petsmart supports groomers, I thought, that's satirical, right? I don't believe it is. I went to this person's Twitter page. They appear to be fully serious when they say that Petsmart supports groomers.
Oh my God.
They support groomers because they have bandanas for your dog with a rainbow on it. Again, that whole give them an inch, they'll take a mile thing. This is just, they're acknowledging that gay people exist with a dog thing, and that means that they're gonna have sex with your kids. They don't even know what they mean. By the way, this is the 4th year of this Petsmart Pride collection.
Sure.
Maybe some of them were furious back in 2019 or 2020 or 2021 or 2022. I don't know, but I know that all of a sudden it's unacceptable now because their life is exactly what they used to pretend to not like about young people. They're snowflakes, they get triggered, they're just looking for stuff to be mad about. You guys are literally going store to store, just desperately hoping to find a rainbow to pee your khakis over.
Yeah.
It's not hurting you, it's not hurting your dog. Your dog doesn't know what a rainbow is. It doesn't mean anything to your kitten. What do you think?
Well, first of all, this would be an incredible parody account making fun of right-wingers if they weren't so just terribly honest about being outraged. Like, you made two really funny like puns. You made the groomers pun, and then the dog must be a cat. That's funny if you're sort of mocking the right wing, but no, you are that. It's so insane. And okay, this is what I wanted to say. So yes, the idea of canceling people, I believe, predates the year 2016, right? Predates the election of Donald Trump, but it was definitely reappropriated. Maybe even from queer culture, maybe even from like queer Black culture, who like said cancel this, that, right? I think it was on Empire at some point or something. But anyway, but when the word canceled really like came out onto the scene was when Stephen Colbert did one of his first like anti-Trump monologue, and made fun of him. And everyone was like, cancel Colbert. Remember cancel Colbert, you guys?
Vaguely, yeah.
The right, what I'm trying to say is the right invented cancel culture. The right made it get like absolutely turbocharged it because of the Trump administration and how fragile they are about their fragile emperor who wears no clothes. Like that is what it was. And so now it makes perfect sense. You want to spot on the boycott boat, right? These are people who are boycotting all kinds of brands because they dare to do anything for Pride Month, and yet they're against cancel culture. Yeah. I mean, I'm so tired of this. But
it used to be, Francesca, that what they were hoping for, I guess, was that like one of these brands would be affiliated with like a gay influencer that we find out had done something bad or said something bad. And then that's the excuse that like, there, we got you. It's not that anymore. It's just literally, do you acknowledge that there are gay people in the world?
Yeah.
And if you do that, if you do not go out of your way to avoid acknowledging that, trying to appeal to gay people, any of that stuff, then we want to destroy your entire brand. That is such a, like, it is impossible to articulate how far beyond any other standard for boycotts we've ever seen before that is.
Yeah,
that is sheer madness, and it's designed madness. Some of these people are so stupid and have such boring lives that this is really what they think about the world. But for a lot of them, this is clearly designed to be a constantly ever-evolving distraction from the fact that the Republicans have taken over Congress and are not gonna do a single thing for any of these Republicans. They don't want conservatives to see that. And how are they gonna see it when they're so focused on Fido becoming bi? They're gonna be distracted by it.
By the way, Fido is definitely bi. Like, I think you can tell when a dog is gay. I definitely think there are gay and lesbian dogs. They're non-binary dogs and cats. Like my cat obviously is gay because she's super in love with me. You know what I mean? I'm like, calm down. Whoa, I'll be here. You don't have to just like snuggle at every moment. Stop bringing me so many toys. My cat is super gay for me. But yeah, and everyone needs to know that. Step off.
Yeah, I just think so. God, it's got to be exhausting being one of these people and getting worked up over the fact that some percentage of the world is gay or bi or lesbian or queer or two-spirit or I don't know, whatever, trans, whatever. Those people exist. They just exist.
But it's not even that, John.
They want the world to be a safe space. They want the whole globe to be a safe space from the reality that they have gone out of their way by watching right-wing media to make themselves uncomfortable about things that there's no objective reason they should be uncomfortable about. Yeah. They have made themselves overly sensitive about things to feel better, to feel superior. Anyway, I am being told that we don't have more time for this. Obviously, I could go on for quite a while. Why don't we move on to our next topic? Okay, stand by. It's time for AI.
I'll be back. Hasta la vista. Calculating cyber operations. I'm sorry, John. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What did we tell you? They're gonna be using AI to attack political candidates in this cycle. It's not in the future, it's now. Take a look at this.
Are you wearing lady clothes?
What?
Are you wearing lady clothes? Those look like lady pants.
No, this is a power suit.
Bet there's a woman's suit.
I do not buy women's clothes. Would not make that mistake again.
That obviously is Michael Scott. And it's also obviously not Michael Scott. It's Ron DeSantis. Now I saw that the way a lot of people saw that. Donald Trump Jr., son to the president, tweeted it out with the caption, DeSantis does seem to spend a lot of time in high heels, which we also told you they would be mocking him over. But to be clear, they're not just mocking him for being short there. They're again implying, as they do constantly, that Ron DeSantis is gay. That's just what they're doing. That's what this race is about. But that said, it is fairly advanced AI. Here's a little bit more of it.
This is too good.
You know what? Damn. Would you please tell Daryl that this is not a woman's suit?
Oh my God, that's a woman's suit.
You're wearing a woman's suit?
No, I do. I wear men's suits. Okay, I got this out of a bin. There were these huge bins of clothes, and everybody was rifling through them like crazy, and I grabbed one, and it fit. So I don't think that this is totally just a woman's suit. At the very least, it's bisexual.
Who makes it?
Mysterious. It's European, okay? It's a European cut.
The pants don't have any pockets.
No, they don't. See? Italians don't wear pockets. You make one tiny mistake, you're dead. I made one tiny mistake. I wore women's clothes. Please clap.
See, you got the meatball in there and everything. So look, is this a substantive attack? No, but it's also exactly what we said was gonna happen. Not just that they're gonna use the AI like this, but they are going to make an absolute laughingstock out of Ron DeSantis. Now you can still tell, first of all, if you watch The Office, you know that that's not actually Ron DeSantis, but the video isn't perfect and the voice has some issues, but it's advancing pretty quickly, Francesca. What do you think?
First of all, great scene. It's a very funny scene from The Office. But so like that's all these people are, you guys. MAGA is a movement that elevates meme lords. You can meme your way into office. You can meme your way. Seriously, if Trump ever gets another crack at the White House, again, it will be the first, like the top 5 memers. And Stephen Miller will be like, man, and everyone's just gonna have to present like, whatever they created and like, and whatever bad graphic they made. It's just so sad. It's so pathetic. And also that's meat wad, not meatball, okay? And do not denigrate meat wad
is. He's the meatball Ron. That's why I said I watched Aqua Teen. I know.
I'm saying they don't get. I'm saying do not. Meat wad is a good man.
He's the best of them on the force.
He is the best of them.
He is. I love him. But anyway, yeah, it's fairly effective. And the thing is, like they do it on The Office, okay, you instantly almost everybody knows that it's not real. But like if you do that to just an interaction of some racist person yelling the N-word or something, is everyone gonna know that that wasn't a new candidate that you're not that familiar with or whatever? Like we're rolling all these out so that you can see the technology as it advances, but also start to get an idea of how this could be even more insidious, even more damaging. And when Donald Trump Jr. tweets it out, you can be pretty sure that it's fake or whatever. But also from the point of view of Ron DeSantis, does it matter that it's fake? And I get what you're saying. Like we have, people Photoshop just a still JPEG as a meme and that can insult you. I just do think that there is something more effective about fake video and fake audio. Like this stuff is gonna become pervasive. And the reason I wanted to bring it up with you, Francesca, just really briefly before we move on is, I had a conversation with my wife yesterday. Obviously, for people who are watching and don't know, my wife is expecting our first child.
Okay.
And I said to her, because we were talking about AI and I was like, our children are going to grow up thinking that it's the most normal thing ever. They will never have lived in a world where everyone doesn't have routine access to AI, text, audio, and video generation. And probably a million times more integrated and advanced than we have right now. They will think that that is the most normal technology ever. And they will always have lived in a world where people can make their own movies and their own songs and everything.
Unless we don't tell them about the internet.
Yeah, that'll work.
It doesn't exist. Look, my daughter hasn't watched TV yet. She sees computers and goes, huh. But like she's never watched, okay, she watched the Rihanna halftime show. That was it. But that could have been a dream. First thing she ever watched. Loved it. Very much loved it. But like that could have been a dream. Like, what are you talking about? There's no moving images. No. I think here's the thing, John, you and I are very different. Like, and I think a lot of people feel fatalistic about technology. I'm not. And I think generally we need to approach technology not as an inevitability, but as something that we can potentially regulate and control in order to help and assist and not sort of grant it full access to the free market to screw over our lives forever and ever. Yeah. But that's just me.
I like it. I like that approach. I hope that we move in that direction. I think it's gonna really depend on who's making all the money off of this. And I'm assuming it's the rich, in which case they'll be protected, would be my fear. Anyway.
In which case, let's get in on the ground floor, goddammit, let's get rich.
That's true, I should be investing right now. That said.
Replace me with AI, dude, you should just do it. Fantastic Mondays, AI.
Fantastic Mondays.
Yeah,
we're gonna work on it. Anyway, that's just the beginning of the baby conversation. We actually have to talk a little bit more about babies. Really fast, I wanna thank, let's see, Thomas here, 16 months. This is the year of the fire dragon. Be prepared, we're coming. Loving friend Iadarola, thank you. Moon Dragon, always happy to have you here. Jonah Morton, thank you for your 8 months. Patrick Depew as well. Jesse Minor, thank you. Says the sky is woke, John. Yeah, the damn rainbow. Boycott the sky, that's what I say. Anyway, with that said, why don't we launch into our last conversation, starting with this.
Will you destroy your gender reveal because you didn't want another girl?
Oh, she really mad. It's okay. I didn't think she was for real.
Okay, so a member of her team came across this video. It's a TikTok showing a gender reveal party where apparently the mom had been wanting, I guess, a boy, and then was revealed, was having another girl, and kind of lost it. And the video is obviously inherently kind of critical, and the commentary under it was way more critical. I would like to start off by saying, let's all back off. We don't know the context of what happened at it. We don't know for sure that a lot of stuff on TikTok is scripted and fake anyway. Like, you can't be sure that this wasn't like for laughs or something. So to jump immediately to that mom is crazy, she's gonna be a bad mom, let's not do that. But what we do know is that supposedly this happened. That is what's being alleged. And I just thought, I'm having a kid. Francesca, you had a kid. I know that you had a really explosive gender reveal party. So what do you think about potentially being really frustrated with the revelation that it brings?
Don't have a party. Gender reveal parties. When, why, how, who, what, why? Like, we were born in the 80s, man. We didn't do gender reveal parties back then. And yet, like, why now in like the year 2023 do we still do these things that feel like they're from the 50s? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's like, no, we always used to burn down massive forests, when we did gender reveal parties using rockets. No, it's just so funny. But if you're gonna do a party, make sure you're ready for whatever gender that might be. Make sure you got your game face on. Otherwise, no one can eat cake. I mean, we're gonna still eat the cake even if you're crying and you're like over there. But it is very funny that people aren't ready to like. It's like when you open a present that you don't really want and you're like, you have to like, or you just like have to pretend. You pretend. Get your pretend face on.
Do you think? Because obviously, like the reason I always find these stories fascinating is because it just does seem like such a weird cultural thing to me. I like the idea of tradition more than you probably would assume. Most people would assume, considering that I'm like a progressive or whatever. Like, I love the idea of little things like this. This one in particular, though, because it seems so new, like in terms of it being widespread. I wonder if this is, and I'm not saying for individual people, but like, is this like a reaction to the fact that some older people are like, well, there's too much fluidity and people are switching. It's like an attempt to lock things down. Like, at least we know this. We know what gender this person is. It is, after all, not a gender reveal party. It's a gender prediction party, really. Because you don't know. I mean, the vast majority of people are gonna line up with whatever gender is assigned to them at birth, but not a lot of people are going to. So exactly, that's what I'm saying. But like, do you think that this is? I know. I don't think that people, considering the climate politically, I don't think people want to write baby genitals party on the sign.
The unformed genitals of the zygote party.
Do you think that that's what it is, though? It's an attempt to regain control over something that older generation.
No, it's an attempt.
You think it's just an attempt to have a party?
Squeeze more presents out of people.
Do you get presents at a gender reveal party?
Probably. It's an attempt, this is the same thing of like, hey, we're doing like a bridesmaids party before the wedding. And you're like, girl, I'm already like, I bought an ugly dress for you. I did all this stuff. Now I gotta get you another thing, like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's just too many. Some of this is good, but it's too much.
Yeah, I think for me, it's people want something that they think can go viral. So something surprising. Sure. This naturally has a surprise and it's a party and you get to be creative. And most people don't seem to understand that you can just be creative. Like, did you know that anyone can paint? Anyone can write a short story? Like, a lot of people forget that. You can just be creative and make stuff.
But imagine being this mad about it being female, John.
100%. But again, I'm not gonna get down on the individual mom because we know almost nothing about this. I have no idea what anything is going on. I think it's an interesting inroads to talking about these parties, which I will never stop being fascinated by. Anyway, with that said, we're unfortunately out of time for the show. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you especially to Francesca Fiorentini, especially on her busy day of the Bitchuation Room. Everyone check out the Patreon. Thank you for being here, Francesca.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna be talking about the finale of Succession for our tier 2 and tier 3 members on YouTube. So I hope everyone checks that out. And there's a lot to come on the show for now, though. Stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.
you